Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Gita, from our conversation we had the first time, this is pretty much some of the information that we have regarding Madoras. As we interact with the firm, we'll probably learn a bit more, but this is a very good place to start from and to see where Great will fit into the tech solutions and the tech stack of the firm. To start off our presentation, we'd like to talk about the survey that was done by David Smith. And in this survey, he identifies some of the frustrations which firms experience across the industry. And one of them is integrations. Now, GreatSoft is not only a practice management solution, but a data aggregator. So this is one of the #1 things which we actually address. Having a cloud solution is something else. Obviously, we are in the cloud, but maybe there's some of the things that you are able to relate to with this survey. This survey is actually almost a year old now. It comes out every November. So it'll be interesting to see what the new one looks like.
I think if I could just add to what Daniel said there, the integration piece. As we've gone around and talked to firms about, the drivers for change, and what are some of the thought process around if they are looking to change, it often comes back to the inefficiencies of having multiple databases in the practice, and this has just really occurred in recent years. Back in the day, the tendency was to have a single vendor, one integrated platform with all of the applications, connected up that way, and that was fine, I think, back in years gone by. But as software has evolved and more applications in the cloud, practices are wanting to choose the best application for that particular function in the firm. And you've got products, to give some examples, like Class Super would be one. Maybe now Infinity or BGL another, X-Plan in the wealth management, and typically in these practices they are got upwards of 9 or 10 databases that are not integrated, and the cost and inefficiency of managing that, let alone the impact on the client from a service perspective, is quite high, and that's one of the problems that these practices are looking to solve.
And many times the practices move out to different solutions because what they have, the systems they have, don't cater for the growing needs of the firm. So firms connect with GreatSoft. We've got 3 aspects which we can help the firm with. First of all, the access of data. So when GreatSoft is deployed, data will be central. So there's one single view of a client, we call it bi-directional integration, where everything it's edit once, sync everywhere. There's obviously savings if there's remote service or Citrix access that is involved. And we believe that our GreatSoft service, when I unpack the team that we are bringing to the market, we've got really deep expertise in the market. So GreatSoft, our byline is freedom of choice. Basically, what that means is we allow firms to choose solutions which work best for them, and then have those solutions integrate into one central platform. So from this one central platform, we give you very, very sophisticated practice management capabilities that is at least on par with the likes of APS and MyOp AE. We also integrate the data that you have from external sources, like Brian mentioned, Class or now Infinity or Zero Tax. which allows the firm to have one single view of a client. You edit information once, you maintain one database. And this solution is also very scalable. In my previous life in Greatsoft, I worked in Africa, and some of the largest clients we've got, like one of my clients was 1,500 staff in one location. So we can handle the sophisticated requirements of multi-office, multi-location, multidisciplinary firms. We can easily handle that. Full conversions, yes. We take your existing data and convert that into Greatsoft. Obviously, we don't take all the data. We can take all the data, but we can talk about that later, about the conversion of this data. We've been around for we've been around for about 25 years. We are already in 15 countries, 1,000 sites, 400 firms. These are some of the firms that we service. So Greatsoft is by no means a new version 1 development that's been brought to Australia. We've got deep experience. We were born out of Solution 6. Maybe Brian was involved back then in the Solution 6 Greatsoft APS scenario. And maybe he can explain that section a bit better.
Yeah, not really a lot to add there, other than, as you say, the foundation of Greatsoft originally was Solution 6. When we started up APS, it was also off, the back of Solution 6. We'd been involved with Solution 6. I'd run Solution 6 South Africa and the UK. When we started up here, it was a breakaway. 4 of us broke away from Solution 6 and started up APS. I think quite a lot of parallels in terms of how that's all trended out. I think one of the reasons that APS was quite successful was back in the day, Solution 6 was the de facto solution for accounting firms, but not keeping pace with the trends. People moving on to Windows and SQL Server and so on, and not keeping pace with that, meant the organization fell behind, and that gave APS an opportunity to get into the market. And I think we're seeing some similar situations now with both the incumbents, APS and MYOB, pretty much fallen behind without having a cloud solution, and that really has given us the opportunity to come in now and address that gap that exists in the marketplace. And why the likes of RSM and others have chosen Greatsoft is that it's not just changing practice management for the sake of it. It's practice management changes, but also what can that platform allow them to do in terms of the growth and the efficiency gains. So yeah, quite interesting how history sometimes repeats itself.
Yeah, so the previous slide was the South African team. What's important to note about that team is that our support is run from South Africa. We already support 15 countries from that base. So your first line of support is an actual human being that you can email or contact, and they'll help you. This slide is the Australian team, and you may or may not recognize some of these faces because we've got quite a heavy flavor of ex-APS people within the Greatsoft team. So to summarize what we've spoken about now, and the next phase of the presentation is unpacking the different bits and pieces of Greatsoft. But to summarize, Greatsoft gives you the freedom to choose some of these nice technologies that are out there, productivity enhancement technologies. It gives a firm the ability to choose some of these without having an additional database to maintain. Because Greatsoft will link into these productivity tools and will also deliver a very, very robust practice management environment that's in the cloud. So any questions or comments up to this stage of the presentation?
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
Daniel, just before you go on, I just wanted to just cycle back a little bit on the support aspect, because that is it is an important one. Daniel mentioned the fact that support is run out of South Africa, which may, you know, that may be a red flag, but for us it's been a big win, because in fact instead of having to go and recreate a new first line support team, these people have been dealing with the product for a very long time. Have got deep knowledge of the application, so it's not unusual. In MYOB run their support out of South Africa. Amazon do. There's a lot of companies use the South African bases for support. So running a 24/7 service model for us gives our clients, you know, even a broader timeline in terms of when they can access online support. But then the important thing, I think, is, you know, the teams that are on the ground and in there doing the implementations, and that's where we've got a really strong group there with deep knowledge of practice management, having implemented practice management systems in large firms over many years. So we've got that good mix of, you know, experienced resources who are going to go in and not just do the implementation training, but also add some value in terms of looking at best practice and how things could be evolved in the firm to give you some efficiencies there. So I just wanted to, you know, just cover that off to make sure you're comfortable with the support aspect and our consultants that'll be in the office and helping with the implementation process, but also going to help month-end reporting. That team there is very experienced, going all the way back to the Solution 6 days. There's many people in that Australian team there that go back 25 plus years in the practice management domain. So I think we've got a very strong team in that regard.
So the time zone's not a problem then, Brian? It's 24/7, I think I heard you say.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. It was one of the key factors with RSM that, you know, had a guaranteed support on 24/7 basis. So we're just running you know, a shift model there with our support teams in South Africa.
Okay, so the next part of the presentation is unpacking what Greatsoft does and what we don't do, and what the connected practice ecosystem will look like. Using this circle to illustrate this. So the first section would be practice management. Now, practice management is your normal functionalities that you would expect from a practice management system: client and contact management, billing and processing, and then reporting. One of the things I can mention about our reporting is that it's programmed on Microsoft SQL reporting. So this is a language which is not proprietary to Greatsoft. You can write your own reports, or you can get somebody that has Microsoft SQL RDL report writing experience. They can write the reports. So the reports are very flexible. We can, for some firms, like for example PwC, we give access directly to the SQL database. If you have the skills to manage the database, you can have access to that data. When we go into the software, you'll see that we've got a wide variety of reports. So you've got the basic reports. On top of that, we've got a business intelligence dashboard, which you may or may not want to use. You can even have your own Power BI environment, bring our data into that. And then there's also personalized dashboards, which each and every single employee can have access to their own little tweaks. When we go into the software, we'll be able to show you this. The next section that Greatsoft addresses is job management. Now, basically, job management is a place where you can track jobs within the system. Each job has got certain individual parameters, like it's got a budget, it's got a start date and an end date. It has a bunch of staff that's connected to a specific job. The job might have a whole set of steps. Each step has its own budget and its own start and end date. Now, all of these things are tracked and measured within GradeSoft, or can also be automatically triggered. So when something happens, then this type of job needs to happen. When we go into the software, it's much easier to explain when you visually see it there. Also, it integrates with best-in-class workflow solutions. If what we have is not addressing all the needs of the firm, well, you can bolster that up with an integration selection of your choice. Thirdly, we've got a mobile app. So the mobile app is a different way to consume and to capture information within GradeSoft, specifically timesheets. It makes the capturing of timesheets very easy to such a degree that it can connect to your mobile calendar. In other words, meetings that's in your calendar are presented on your timesheet. It uses GPS tracking, for example. If you drive to a client, you can just switch on GPS tracking, and that expense is immediately pushed into your expense sheet in GradeSoft. Got a little stopwatch that you can start and record when you work on time. And it's got also functionality where you can dive into information about a client.
It's also an expense capture module, so you can capture your expenses directly from there, and it'll appear as a disbursement, either chargeable or non-chargeable, that you can then run through an approval process.
Yeah. Now the fourth functionality is CRM. And GradeSoft is a bit of a gray area there. Yes, we do a little bit of CRM, but we don't do sophisticated functionalities, which one would expect from an off-the-shelf CRM system. For example, lead and event management, pipeline management, automated email marketing. Those are the things that GradeSoft do not do. But GradeSoft, what we do is capture client notes. We've got a way to automate these client notes, and we give you the building blocks. In other words, very, very sophisticated client and contact management to bolt onto or to feed into your CRM system. Whether that is MailChimp, Pipeline, Microsoft Dynamics, or any other sophisticated specific CRM module you would like to use. Brian has got a lot of knowledge on the Symphony CRM system, but that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, I think the CRM conversation is quite a big one and becoming a bigger topic for a lot of firms. But just to give that clear distinction, the CRM functionality, if you want to call it that, within GradeSoft is really everything from once the client is on board as a client. So all of the communications, notes, contacts, follow-ups, inviting to events, that kind of thing, you can do within GradeSoft. But it's everything before that, from targeting an opportunity all the way through to the onboarding and business development process in a sales environment. That is, you require a more fully featured CRM solution. But the end and the important piece is that we're still looking to have full client lifecycle management process. So everything from that initial targeting to once they become a client, and maintaining that data. So you're not, again, running a separate database for your opportunities and for your prospects. And then once they are a client, if you want to do more targeted marketing, that you have an integrated system so that the practice management system and the client data in the practice management system is consistent in the CRM system. So we do provide that level of integration with the best-in-class CRM systems as well.
Okay, so the last two sections of this circle is compliance. Now, they, Greysoft, do not have any solutions. We believe that there's really strong solutions out there, and we integrate with those. We've got no plans to build the tax or any compliance or superannuation software. Our business module is integration, and we see the market moving in that way. For us, we don't see that one provider can actually be the best and the most innovative at all these solutions. Or in the past, that might have worked, but the technology is moving so quickly that it'll be difficult for anybody to be ahead and the best with everything all the time. Just the other day I met, in fact last week, I met somebody who has got a module that automates timesheets. So it's something that sits across your Microsoft Outlook and your PABX system and picks up emails and communication and telephone numbers from your client base and then suggests timesheets for people. Now that's the type of technology. We don't integrate to this person yet, but that's the type of things that it's just so many productivity and smart little things are popping out, and one would like to use them, but not create another database. So compliance, we don't have any answers to compliance. Clients need to choose best in class, and very much the same with document management. There's a huge selection of document management providers out there, and we will connect to the best in class solution which the client either already uses or would like to use, including the likes of SharePoint. So on the top here, it's SharePoint Virtual Cabinet, iManage, FYI Docs, Nimbus, Suite Files, HowNow, M Files, and I'm sure there's a couple more in the market which you might know of. So what we have now is our Greysoft practice management ecosystem. By the way, this little bubble that pops out here is, most of them are payment portal. So Appium, QuickFee, Fee Synergy. These aren't modules that really fit into anything that we have on these circles, but it's nevertheless solutions which firms find very useful. So that is the connected practice ecosystem. Is there any questions or comments that you have around this? Or Brian, is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think just sort of dropping back to the same discussion for the document management. But I think if you look at that compliance section there, what we made sure is that we are integrating with the predominant providers in those categories. So if you look at self-managed super fund, that would be Class and PGL. We've made sure the integration exists there. Zero on tax. Tax Lab is maybe an organization you may not have heard of before. They are relatively new to the market. They're quite a big tax provider in New Zealand, and specifically corporate tax. So they're targeting the segment of the client base that perhaps Xero's tax system doesn't handle, and that would typically be your large clients, your big corporates. Tax Lab really plays in that space, and will be available in Australia from January of 2020. They've already in beta with one of the big four firms, and will go live in the early part of the year. But it's, as these evolve, the Now Infinity as well, Now Infinity in the corporate secretarial, BGL corporate secretarial, we're often guided by the firms, and the firms said us, we use XYZ product, do you integrate with that? And provided it's a known provider, and there is demand, we would typically then work with those organizations to provide the integration. And I think this is quite an important piece because, again, if you go back to the sort of legacy platforms, the ability to integrate with providers like this, technically it could be done, but it is very, very difficult and time consuming because you're having to get programmers sitting end to end and directly accessing the data structures. And the minute anyone changes anything in that environment, all of a sudden integration is broken. So number one was a very time consuming exercise. And then in terms of maintenance, and ongoing maintenance, very difficult. The move to the cloud has changed all of that. Almost all providers now who are cloud-based would have an API, an open API, and there's a set of rules that govern that in terms of how we integrate. So to give an example, if we meet up with a provider, let's say it's now Infinity or anybody like that, and they come along, we can literally within 3-4 weeks have a working integration in place. And sometimes a lot less than that. We've actually done it in a week in certain examples where the integration requirements are not that heavy. But that's an example of, as the market's moving, and as Daniel's saying, you're seeing more and more providers coming with niche products that solve a particular issue in the practice. And then the ability to integrate that, because we're all cloud-based, is so much easier these days. And that's sort of underlines the strategy we've taken.
So you can integrate with APS and Handy Ledger, Handy Tax, sorry?
No, we can't, because both of those are desktop applications. And in order to do that, we would need to integrate at a direct program level. I don't think either of those organizations would particularly want to integrate with us, because obviously then exposes the, I guess, breaks down the number of applications that a firm would use of theirs. So no, we don't integrate with any of the MARB platform or the APS platform, and Handy for that matter, because all three of those have not yet moved to the cloud.
So, Brian, can we see a bit of the software? Can you show us how? Can we see some of the software now?
Yeah, absolutely.
And just see how it, from a CRM and workflow, just sort of the main sort of key points, just how it actually integrates together.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Before we dive into the software, I'll give you a little bit of a screenshot demo. So what we'll look at when we're in the software is how this integration comes together. So here's an example of a client called Bay Street with integration pieces. So we've got the zero tax integration in this example, now Infinity. You click on a zero tax file, you'll be able to see zero tax information. I'm just quickly going through this because we're going to touch this, connect with this in the demo site. This is where you set up your integration with zero files.
And I think just the important piece in this integration is you would have seen in that you've got the GradeSoft client information and then what's in Zero. So with all of our integrations, it is, I think as Danie mentioned right in the beginning, it is a two-way sync. And in order to maintain that data, because we would be drawing, for example, tax data would be coming in from Zero. Now Infinity would be initially drawing that data from ASIC, and then that will flow through. So we're giving that screen view there of showing unmatched data that may exist that could be different in the tax system or in any of the corporate compliance system versus what's in the practice management database. And then that's flagged, and obviously, an administrator or somebody that's appropriate can have a look at that and make those changes. And it could be something as simple as in this example here, ABC company PDY Limited, in small PDY Limited smalls and in Zero, it's the proper name. So these data matches are happening all the time, and it's in real time. So you're making, you're always getting the most up-to-date information available in the firm, and you can then make those changes as you go.
Can I ask a question, please? We currently use, as you know, Brian, APS. What, if we were to implement this system, what could we bring over across from APS, or we'd have to start all over again to put all our data into the system? No.
We provide full conversions. So the data, everything that's in your practice management system, so in APS, your client data would, obviously it's because it's integrated with the taxi, all the tax information will be there. We can bring all the client data, names and addresses. You can bring your balances over, WIP and debtor balances. We can bring transactions over as well, but typically we don't do that because we have done it, but it needs to be, obviously the data needs to be clean, and we've got to make sure that the transactions that are coming over are current. So any open transactions, debtor WIP transactions will come over, and then the historical balances would come over too. So that integration would cover that, and then from a tax point of view, I'm not sure if Xero have full tax conversions. I don't think they do. Is that right, Daniel? You would start the tax data from
2014.
2014.
Yes.
Okay.
I can pull everything in from 2014.
Right.
It is an interesting change of philosophy when we first started with Brian and APS, whereby you have one supplier and everything integrates. It's all seamlessly handled in the system. Now to say, well, we really should be having different suppliers for different parts of the practice.
Absolutely, and a lot of people have said that to me. Said, "Oh, well, you were one of the proponents of this integrated solution at APS," and that's exactly right. It's what we drove, that whole strategy of having one integrated database and platform. And that the logic and reasoning behind that is absolutely still correct. You do want one database, and you do want to have all your applications integrated and synchronized. The problem is that over time, in order for that strategy to be successful, you need to make sure that all of the applications that you've got in that ecosystem are competitive. And they are being developed and evolved, at least in line with the other providers. Otherwise, what happens is you end up with an integrated solution, but you're having to compromise on the applications because they have not evolved at the same pace. So, if you go back to the Solution 6 days, APS days, MYOB days, there were probably only 4 or 5 suppliers in the marketplace and all of the suppliers did everything. What you're seeing now, if you go to the likes of Xerocon or you go to Accounttech, any of these places, you're seeing 20, 30, 40 providers in there that have got not doing everything. They're doing a particular function. They're doing either the compliance piece or the tax piece or document management, and they are experts in that particular environment. And I think that's the change in the market, is that people are going, yeah, there are better and more efficient tools out there that we want to use. And the incumbent, as Dennis said in the beginning, most of the existing providers are not able to maintain everything at the same pace and are not able to innovate at the same level as this whole proliferation of new providers have come along. So it absolutely is a completely different strategy and philosophy as to what existed back in the day.
So what we've got to do is okay, if we're using APS and the full suite of APS, what are the pros, what are the cons of moving across to GreatSoft in the different areas?
Correct, absolutely.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah, and often it's driven by client demand. If you go back to that original slide, one of the things is that the clients of accounting firms are moving to the cloud. They are in the cloud. Now you've got practices that are going, well, we're still on a desktop application, and we're not able to integrate and service our client in an online way. So a great example of that is if you take Xero's tax, and Daniel will touch on this now and we jump into it. If you look at that solution, it's an end-to-end, and it's a very elegant flow of work papers, tax return, and then the financials. Working in a single ledger, working with the client, you're not having to pull data out, drop it into an accounts production system, produce a set of accounts, make the journal adjustments, then go back into the client's ledger and do it. It's just being done in the application. And I think that change with practices, clients of the accounting firms are now expecting, that they're in the cloud and more of them are moving to the cloud, that the accountant would be able to service them in that way. And if you don't have a cloud-based application, then it means you either stay in the environment you're in now and wait until some point where hopefully they do migrate everything to the cloud, or you go the way many firms have gone, which is to go to an integrated solution with multiple databases. And what we're sort of coming in the middle there and saying you can have both. You can have an integrated solution, you can choose the best-in-class application, and you can still have it integrated because we provide that platform in order for you to do that. Yes, that's kind of where we're sitting from a strategic point of view. Does that make sense?
Still sounds exhausting.
Yeah, well, that's I think the reality is it's going to be exhausting anyway, because once you move from a legacy desktop solution to the cloud, the change process will be the same. You still have to go into a new application. There'll be a conversion. There'll be a new interface. And that's just the reality. So even if you stayed on the APS platform at some point in the future, those changes will have to be made because the applications have got to move forward into the cloud at some point.
The way the GreatSoft solution is structured is to make future changes less painful. So let's say if in 5 years from now you are faced with another change to change something on your the tax side or document management side, and if we go back to this slide, you'll just take out the little piece of software you don't want to use and plug that in. Even if it's GreatSoft, even if you want to take out GreatSoft and put in something else, then you can do that. Right now, to move from APS, it is sometimes an overwhelming thing to have all your modules affected from this one supplier. But in effect, the firm will be much more streamlined with best-in-class, small little mobile, agile apps running the system.
And the reality is you're using some of those already. You already be using another self-managed super fund platform or corporate compliance platform, document management solution. So that's already happening. It's just now accelerating at a faster pace.
Brian,
I'm not
Danie,
saying
can
it's
I?
not going to happen. I'm just saying that it's and I'm not saying it's not inevitable. I'm just saying, goodness gracious me.
Yeah, I understand.
Gents, is it possible to see more of the software?
Sure.
I'm going out of the demonstration and going straight into the software. So what you're looking at is the login screen. Each user will put in their username and password. And the username and password is obviously security control, which will determine what this user can see and do within the system. So in RSM, for example, not everybody can see all the clients. That's where we are now. We're on the client inquiry screen. Certain people in certain offices can only see the clients that's connected to their offices. But the executive team would like to see all the information, and yes, they can do that. You can set up who can see and do what. What we're looking at here is all the clients. You've got a list of clients, which group they're assigned to, partner, manager, which office they're assigned to, and the lockup that you have with the clients. So for example, this one, African Mobile, we've got unbilled WIP of 24,000. It's billed WIP or invoices, that's 5,500, which means an exposure of 29. If I go into a client card, this is now where the integration happens. Clicking on a client, this is my client, Darling Harbour Trust, and here you'll see that there's a whole bunch of tabs here at the top. This is where you can get information on the client. What are we doing for this client? Well, we go to tasks. Who's connected to the client? I want to phone somebody. Well, we go to contacts. What was the tax return of 2016? Let's go to zero tax. If you want to find some documents, we go to the document management portal of choice. You want to know, I need to see something on the share register. You click on either BGL or Now Infinity, and there will be information on the share register available. To go further than that, on the Now Infinity example, you will either have no rights, in other words, you as a user can look at the information and that's it, or maybe you can change some of this information, in which case you can go into the Now Infinity environment. And it's very much the same as zero tax. Most users would maybe only look at information, but you have the ability to either create a new return or go into the zero client file. Okay, so let's
if you're going from a zero client file or Now Infinity, are you clicking on a button that goes directly into that client?
yes.
Or do you need to search the client again? And
no, you go directly into that client. So you'll see I have to log in twice here because my two-factor authentication is not active. Just want to put in that code.
So yeah, so just what you're seeing there is inside GradeSoft, we're surfacing that data so you can get a snapshot and overall view of the client, whether it be zero data or Now Infinity. But if you then want to drop in and actually work on the tax return, that will take you straight into the zero application or the Now Infinity software application.
And it takes you into that client. We are in the Darling Harbour Trust client file now. And then you've got your normal zero tax environment here. Does that answer your question, Jita?
yes, yeah, thanks. So I was just asking you a couple of questions here while I was just on mute. Is it possible to see some
Roll through the tasks.
tasks and workflow?
Yes. So briefly, what you see here on the tasks is tasks that are open for a client. So this is just where you can get statistics on certain tasks. For example, accounting 2018, you'll be able to see what the balance of time, the balance of disbursements, task estimates, dates, who's the task partner, the task manager, even though it might be a different client partner, client manager, service lines. So this is just to give you an idea of the permutations which is available in GradeSoft in how to slice and dice activities inside a client. The other section is the job management, which you asked about. Under job management, I'm logged in as Daniel Fourie, and I'll be able to see here that I've got the following jobs due for me this week. And there they are. Now you can click into a job and you'll be able to see what this job, exactly what I need to do with this job. So what jobs look like is each one has a name and a type. This, whatever type of job it is important because the type of job determines how many steps and what type of steps will be populated under the steps tab. But remember, I mentioned that jobs have budgets attached to them. So there you can see what the budgets are. Each job has an owner. You can see who the owner is. We can see who the team members are that are assigned to a job. Client, job steps. Each step has a start and an end date. Each step has its own budget. So the budget is basically in hours, how much time is allowed for a job. User-defined fields, that's something that you find throughout the system, and this will give you an idea of, you can track information that might not be relevant, or might not be inherently tracked within Greatsoft, but is important to you. Note is also something that you'll find throughout the system. I mentioned this as one of the CRM functionalities that Greatsoft has. You basically can capture a note, and if that note needs to be turned into an alert, if you need to alert yourself or other team members about this activity, then you can alert, you can add them and add a date.
So if they get assigned something to do, it comes up as a to do on their main page, but also they get an email, or the manager get an email. So there's a lot of follow-ups and alerting. It uses the same technology as in APS, which is the APS have got a product called BPA, which is Business Process Automation. The tool that's used is actually out of the UK, and we use exactly the same technology for our alerting and follow-up and tracking system.
When it comes to alerts, you've got that little button, a bell. I've got 15 alerts there. These alerts can be distributed to me through email or through that bell. That's very high level on jobs. In fact, there's more that I can speak about jobs, because what we looked at now is how an employee will look at jobs. Then there's another view of jobs where how a partner or manager will look at jobs. So you see the whole firm's jobs, or obviously the section that you want to filter, your office jobs or jobs that you've assigned to people. So there's a whole different view to look at that as well. We've got 10 minutes left, and I want to cover as much as possible, but give you a solid idea of what the software can do.
Yeah, so just asking a couple of questions internally. Daniel, can we just have a look at some of the management reporting or reports, just very high level? And the other question is, this obviously relies, or I believe it relies on internet speed. So in terms of uptime and speed, that's one question. And the other question I have is, I saw earlier that you had Microsoft BI integrated in this. So is that the whole software built on the back of the ability to incorporate BI tools? And have you created these standard sets that we can leverage, or do we need to create them?
Okay, great. I can answer all of those. First of all, when it comes to internet speed and security,
in 10 minutes.
Yes, in 10 minutes. We believe we can actually have a nice green tick behind that, because the software is already running in 15 countries in Africa in very challenging internet environments. I don't know how many of you have been to Uganda, Rwanda, Lagos, Nigeria, Tanzania. So the internet there, these firms are Deloitte, KPMG, they run on Greatsoft.
Daniel, are you running it on your phone at the moment?
No, I'm running it on a little pocket Wi-Fi thing.
Okay.
Black pocket Wi-Fi.
We often do these demos on the phone, and it's the performance on the phone even is totally acceptable. So.
Yeah.
Yes, and the performance that you are seeing is actually through my computer, through the Zoom. So it's a little bit of delay as well. Then reporting. So on the dashboard, you'll see there's a report button. If you click on that report button, it gives you the report dashboard. Under the report dashboard, you've got a whole bunch of categories for reports. Each category has got its own sets of reports. And you'll see that favorite button. If you click on them on the dashboard, you'll have a favorite. They'll be added to the favorite, because even though we've got so many reports, people only use 5, 6, 7 reports personally. So you will have those displayed on the dashboard. And one of the reports that I want to look at, give you an idea of what these reports look like, is I'm clicking on the favorite and I'm clicking on the combined debtors and WIP report. So all reports have this layout. So on the left-hand side, you'll have filters that you can look at. And on the top, you've got navigation, including how to save these reports. And all reports, you can export them into Excel, either raw Excel or nice looking Excel. Depends what you want to do with the data. So there's two versions of Excel. And these reports have got nice filtering options. So for example, you can look at a data set and say, no, I want to change the way I look at this by service line. For example, this is just an example. So the data can be twisted and turned in whichever way, not whichever way, but there's a whole couple of ways that you can look at the same data, but from a different point of view. Does that make sense, Jita?
Yeah, so Power BI, is it using Power BI?
That particular set of reports is not. That's the standard reporting inside the system, which is using Microsoft SQL reporting services.
Yeah.
So again, you can change those and add to them, but as you can see there, they're very extensive from a reporting perspective. They're not. The other layer on top of that is Power BI, which then we'll go into now, which has, we already have a data warehouse there, and we've got a whole set of reports that have been constructed in Power BI, and then you can add to those as well. So we've got really two layers of reporting over and above the standard. You can do whatever you want within the Power BI environment.
So what we're looking at here, is that the standard set?
Yes.
Yes. So there we've got pre-developed tabs.
And again, these will be adapted for each firm. I mean, we say it's a standard set, but each firms are looking at data in different ways. So we would leverage off this data set here, but it would be tailored more to your business needs and requirements.
Yeah. And you did the setup before the Power BI standard set?
Sorry, say again?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
This comes standard as Power BI, then you can choose to edit some of these tabs or to add some of your own tabs.
Can we develop on top of this our own Power BI?
Yes.
Yes, you can, and you can have external data sources hook into this Power BI. So non-Greatsoft data can flow into this Power BI, and you'll have additional tabs. Maybe.
What about data out of this?
Yes, this is if you can get it out, or if you want our Power BI expertise, then yes, you can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's open. You can even have your own Power BI license, not purchase our Power BI license, and extract data from Greatsoft.
Yeah. Okay.
So we haven't looked at these personal charts that people can build their own information. We haven't looked at the way timesheets are done. We haven't looked at the way we do invoicing. We haven't looked at all of the CRM capabilities, but I think that the Medora's team will have a good idea of what the Greatsoft system can do, and we'll have some nice questions lined up for us when we visit you in Melbourne.
Yeah. Daniel, what I'll ask, I know we need to go, but if you wanted to run up, or if you can please run up another 15 odd minutes, not now, but if you can just record a session by yourself on Zoom and maybe email us a link or something for us to have a look at, because I know it would be valuable to see some of the items that you just mentioned before we get together in Melbourne. Are you able to do that? Run a demo, we're not going to be on it, record it, send us a link, and then that way all the directors can see it before we get there.
Yep.
Yeah, I can do that.
If there's particulars, as you just mentioned, even if it's just 2 to 5 minutes per section, that'd be highly advantageous. And or anything else you think that out of today's Zoom session that is making great off, famous, so to speak, that we haven't touched on that you really want to put forward, then please feel free to put it forward.
Good. We can do that.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions? Just while we've another minute or so or two, David or Michelle or Alf?
Actually, I've just got a quick question. Is it a live timesheet? So as I enter, it's automatically posted through?
You can choose if you want it to be approved or directly posted.
Okay.
David, do you have a question?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
No, excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.